I think the biggest mistake that I was making early on was my initial mindset is I just get myself on the phone, I'm gonna be able to make money. First 2 or 3 months, I was like, okay, I'm getting on the phone, but maybe I'm not as good as a closer as I thought I was, because it's like, okay, no sales are happening. I actually reached out, and one of the big things why community can be such a valuable tool of being able to talk to people who are a year ahead of you, a couple years ahead of you, to kind of mitigate those roadblocks.
Talk with Keithen. So Keithen's recently gone through our process in Scale Your Sales, has a team of closers, and is in a great situation now where he's excited to scale. He's trying to fill up his calendars, and I'm just curious to hear the whole story. And you hinted at this before we got on here, that you reached out to me about 3 years ago. So can you give us a little backstory as to what happened there?
Yeah, of course, more than happy to. So I actually started off in the digital marketing space, so to speak, as a closer in the early on phases, actually when I was only 17 years old, about 4 years ago. And I remember I was looking for another closing job because I was making maybe like $1,500, $1,800 a month consistently in commissions. And I saw you as just one of the biggest authorities in that vertical for, partnering people up with salespeople that, you were partnering people, salespeople up with high performing offers. So I remember I reached out to you, told you I was a closer, told you I had a little bit of experience. And I remember the first question, whether it was yourself or your VA asked, was, have you closed over $1 million in sales? And at that time I hadn't. I think I was around like 170,000 or something like that. And I was like, no, I'm a bit away. And you denied me at first, which I totally understood, which kind of led, once I started to kind of build up my own business and transition out from being a closer. I had already started working on the back end of other digital marketing offers, selling funnels that cost like $10,000, things of that sort. Once I decided to take that information that has, been really, really valuable for myself and kind of leverage it to creating my own offer, it kind of became a no-brainer of, okay, let me reach out to Mike Mark, just because if he denied me all those years ago in saying that everybody needs to at least, sell 7 figures before even being able to have the opportunity to be partnered up, I knew it had to be something that I was going to be more than happy to and more than excited to move forward with.
Sweet, man. Yeah, and that's a huge part of it, right? Like you'll hear me say it all the time. You can train a chicken to climb a tree, but it's a lot easier to hire a squirrel.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about, like, you're not Xerox, especially when you're trying to get off the phone. You don't want to take the college kid who's got potential and try and turn him into a killer. I'd rather put a killer on, especially in early phases. And then as you scale up, you can start to build a sort of recruitment and training camp where you have talent that you develop. But in the beginning, I mean, we just talked about this for a while before on our call. You don't want to develop talent. You want to hire the talent right out the gate, especially when you're in that critical stage of getting off the phones to scale. So what happened? What was the sort of the moment that you decided, all right, I'm going to transition into the business owner role?
It was more, I was filling out a spreadsheet for all the people I was closing for. And I put together the actual revenue that I'd closed. And then I realized that I was only getting 10% of that. And I was like, okay, there's a 90% gap here that I need to be part of. I think 1 month, maybe like 9 months ago, I remember I closed probably like $70,000 or something like that. And then you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. And then you get right about $7,000 plus, then you got to go, figure out to, invest it, pay taxes, put it aside. I just thought it was a significantly larger chunk of the pie that I felt I had a solid enough understanding just because of the work that I'd done with other agencies on the back end as a closer. And then I'd helped out with copywriting, a couple ad management, things of that sort. I was like, I understand the business. I'm pretty sure I could do this myself. So I want to be able to be the person paying the commissions instead of being paid the commissions.
Can I ask you something?
What's that?
Now that you've made that transition, do you realize that you make a lot less money than you expected to make when you hit those big boy numbers?
Yeah, I kind of knew that though, just because of one person in particular who I was closing for, a guy named Jeff Baxter. He runs a company called Ad Ninja Pro. he had kind of briefed me on like paying out commissions, paying out team members. So I actually went in more expecting to not take any money out. And now I barely take any money out of all the revenue that we do. But knowing that if we can scale this up faster, and part of the reason of trying to partner with somebody like yourself and your team, which has been amazing, is to make sure that, you know, we could scale it up to something really, really big. Because then if you're doing, you know, 80, 100K per month, like a lot of your clients, then taking out even a small piece of that is a lot easier than working for it 8 hours per day as a closer.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's funny, you know, I thought as well, kind of that same thing. I think a lot of sales reps think it when they're closing. It's like, dang man, I'm closing 200 grand, like I'm killing it, and I'm closing 300 grand on this offer, and if I had all that, and then now I'm on the other side of it, and I'm like, fuck man, I'm paying out so much, like
So much
for the additional risk, for the additional everything, like it's not as green as I thought. And sometimes I'm like, shoot man, like I was making as much sometimes or more than I make when I was a closer than when I'm a business owner. And I didn't have to worry about any expenses, you know.
Most definitely. You know, I think the mindset changes from being, when you're a closer, you're still at the end of the day, even though you're an independent contractor, you're an employee. And, you know, that's the same mindset. And I do kind of look back with a little bit of novelty on okay, I just made $5,000 and I don't have to spend it anywhere else. Now I know when $5,000 comes in, I got to send 20% of it here. I got to reinvest 20%. And then I got to play my closers 15%. Now I've got a team of VAs, which of course it is more stress. I feel like it is like walking a tightrope, but kind of the mindset is I'll turn 21 in April, of like, even if the mindset that I think more people need, and I talked to all my friends about, is if you're going to try to scale anything, whether it's your business, you know, your grades, a sport, you know, what's the worst that could happen at this type of age? You just go broke again. I was broke like 2 years ago. It's not too big of a or it's not going to be a new circumstance to have to adapt to.
Yeah. The thing too, though, it's kind of interesting. I think just having been on this side of the table and like seeing so many different configurations of teams and not having teams, that I definitely do think that there are certain people that should run businesses and there are people that should not run businesses. And I think like there's a lot of wisdom in knowing I'm a person that doesn't want to run a business, you know, whereas like for anyone who knows that about themselves, like for example, Moose, he says that to me all the time. He's like, look, like I don't want to be the number one. I want to be the best number two in the world. And there's a profound amount of wisdom in him being able to say that, because I think like at the end of the day, a lot of people who shouldn't be number one want to be number one, and then they can't carry the load. You know what I mean? And there's a certain degree of pressure and stress, and like it cut a lot that comes with it. But I think there are certain people that like when presented with really difficult situations, they always grow through the difficult situations. And there's other people who will crumble in difficult situations. It's knowing how much pressure you really want and how much you can take, you know?
Yeah. And I think you could also take more than you probably think you can. Like once you're in that situation, as much as like it sucks, you're in a really stressful situation, you're trying to grow.
That's because you're you.
Yeah.
That's because you're you. Like there's people that can't, you know what I mean? As soon as it comes on, they can't. They like, for me, it's like if anytime it's been the worst thing in my entire life, that's when I was the best. Like the worst thing in my entire life that could happen, you immediately see me come out better, like every single time. And like no amount of pressure you throw at me, like I will come out alive. And it's just always been how I am. I'm wired that way. And I know there's a lot of people, I've seen other people go through the same situation as me at the same time and break.
Totally different result.
Yeah, completely different result. Completely broken in terms of their resolve as a person and everything. And they're good people, don't get me wrong, but they just couldn't, they weren't wired this way. And I think a certain group of us are wired a certain way. And that if you know you need to run a business, it's because you probably need to run a business. And if you think you probably shouldn't, then you probably shouldn't. You know what I mean? With building a team, what have been some of your key insights there?
I think it matures you really, really fast, being responsible for other people, especially once I've noticed like building a team, starting business. In a way, you're like providing for families, you know, too. So it's like, okay, no mistakes are going to be able to be made, at least on my end, since I'm on the top. but it also builds maturity, because I've noticed it's added a lot more patience with myself, of making sure there's been mistakes that have been made that initially the first instinct is, somebody made an F up, or they just really messed up. And then I realize, as you kind of, do a little bit of a breakdown of, what has been my relationship, what agenda did I set from the very beginning with this team member? Okay, I didn't make this clear enough from the very beginning. Therefore, I've got to take responsibility for that mistake.
Any other things with the team that you felt like were surprisingly difficult, or like major aha moments?
I think, and this might be more specifically with salespeople, I've noticed, because the daily huddles that you guys recommended that we've been on, we do daily role plays with the entire team in front of the team. And a couple things that you notice is, like our best closer, for example, I notice every single day where our other team of closers and myself are like watching in a role play, that her step it up 100%. But he also becomes a little bit more, because there's a community of hopping on a daily huddle where everybody's role playing with each other, and we're all kind of utilizing our skills as closers or salespeople to be able to kind of improve not only ourselves, but as the team. So once somebody has a realization, four people have a realization, because I have it and other closers do as well. So it kind of is like that, I guess they say that hockey curve, or that hockey stick curve of like success or improvement. And I've noticed that that's happened a lot more. Basically, if there's one big realization that I have or anybody else has, now we're all going to have it, because we're on a call every day for an hour talking about our biggest mistakes, our biggest struggles, and then working to improve them as well.
Dude, amazing. And the other thing is too, like with the daily huddles, a lot of people don't pick this up, but like the oh crap, I'm out on Thursday, can so and so cover this call because it just booked in, and then that they're able to cover that call, and then now you're not losing 5-10 grand in a day. Like that goes a long way, and especially when it compounds over time.
Oh yeah.
And those little moments of like, hey, it's weird, my calendar is glitching. Oh yeah, boom, 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 and then they realize they actually had all these appointments, or there was an issue that their calendar was down, and maybe, or that you're not getting calls booked in because the calendar is not showing up, and like you're able to troubleshoot stuff so much faster.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. And I guess you have a really cool perspective in actually the same perspective I have, which is you have been a closer on people's teams, and now you're leading a team. And you have like this environment, and you've kind of taken some of the systems and everything that we teach and have installed them. And I guess, like, what do you see being things that people were making mistakes as business owners before, or things that maybe you didn't consider aside from the daily huddle, which we already touched on, but things that you now see as patterns now that you're on this side of the table?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, from a sales aspect, communication. When I was a closer, I think I only had one person that I ever worked for that made me show up to like a daily huddle or a daily call. And actually, as a closer, that was like probably, I noticed that was the person who I was performing the best for. But I liked, still kind of in that employee mindset, the other offers where it's just like, okay, I just hop on, put in the spreadsheet, I'm done. But not being on that daily call every day, I noticed, even doing kind of a audit on the past version of myself, that I was significantly less committed to the success of those offers, that I wasn't discussing every single day, discussing where I could improve every single day. So I think it might just be a subconscious thing of, the more that you invest in just in terms of time into one specific thing, the more you're actually going to care about the outcome of it. So, because other offers that I still loved closing for back in the day, it was kind of still a clock in and clock out type thing, which you have to understand that, I feel, as a business owner, of like, hey, this person at the end of the day is doing this for revenue. They're doing this for money, but how can we make sure that they're going to buy in on the system, on the process, on the team as much as possible as well, which I think is important.
Yeah, and that's something that we talk a lot about. Like, when you have a team that's dedicated, you get that marginal bandwidth. You get the hey, I was driving and I just thought about how we can improve this system, or hey, I was in the shower and then this idea came to me, or hey, I was about to go to bed and then I was thinking about what we were doing, and then and they're thinking about improving the business and improving the systems and improving the process when they're off work. Whereas if it's just a clock in, clock out, you took your call, you did your thing, you're out, and then you don't care anymore. And to be honest, like, I think sometimes when we're playing the field and we have multiple offers as a salesperson, we like the ones where it's like, oh, this person just leaves me alone and lets me be. Yeah. But then when you're in those other environments where you have those huddles, you have everything, you realize that there's a part of you that's coming out that's much more evolved.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a part of you that cares, that's committed, that is really like interested in being good at it for the sake of being good at something, not just getting through it. You want to be great at it. And all of those components as they show up make such a big difference for the business overall. And it takes a good leader to drive that. And I think that ultimately, like as you start to see with the huddles and your experience, both as a sales rep and now as a business owner, is like really being a good leader comes down to being consistent.
Yep.
Right. If people can consistently count on you, they know that you're going to be at that place at that time. And because you said you're going to be there, then they start to be able to trust you. And if they trust you, then that's when all that stuff that we're talking about, like, really starts to accelerate. Their additional bandwidth starts to be committed to how to improve it. They start to want to impress the other team members. They start to want to contribute more to the entire equation. And it becomes more fun because you're playing the game for the sake of playing the game after a while.
Yeah, most definitely. There's just so much more buy-in. And then also kind of leading by example of not only, which I don't know if this is something everybody does. I wouldn't expect somebody who hasn't closed but still is managing a team. But every day when we are doing the role plays of if somebody has, we're going over a certain objection or setting the agenda, not only just saying, hey, let's do it this way and just giving them a critique, but actually jumping in and say, hey, know what? The same way that I just broke down, here are your pros, here are your cons. I'm going to do a role play and I want you to kind of do the same for me.
What was your monthly revenue when you started?
When I started with you guys?
Yeah. So if it was first week in November, like what did you do in October?
I think October, I might have been 10K that whole month, to be honest.
Okay.
And then this month we're looking to do, right now we're at 23 with about a week to go. Usually the last week is like our second best week. Usually first week's best, last week's is second best. So probably 30, but possibly with some deals we got outstanding, we could be at 35, 40 this month.
Dude, that's epic. And it's with you not taking calls.
Yeah. Huge.
So now that you're in the situation where you have the sales team in place and you're kind of looking at the horizon, what are your next targets or goals?
I want to hit 100,000 per month, 100% this year. Like that's the 100% goal. Just to do that, like I said, I'll be 21 on April 6th. To do that at that age is just something that's kind of been one of those things I've had in the back of my mind since I went to kind of take the risk to launch my own business. But that's not for the purpose of like, I won't be seeing any of that money because I want to be able to have a goal like that, because all the goals I have for the next couple of years of my life are to take the money once we have a significant profit coming from the different, coaching as well as our agency aspect, to reinvest in the long-term goal within, let's say, 2 to 3 years. I want to be able to start a fund to be able to go to other investors to say, hey, look what we've done with these 3 or 4 different marketing agencies, for example, in these 3 niches, to be able to scale it a lot faster with other people's money. So that's the initial goal. But to get there, we've got to, over the next year and a half, 18 months, really be able to scale fast, but also systemize the entire process so we can do it 2, 3, 4 more times over and over again.
Nice. Love it. And so I guess one question I have for you is, was there anything that like throughout the process of Scale Your Sales that you're like, damn, they freaking they're so right about that? Did you have one of those moments ever?
Oh, the biggest. Um, I think part of it is one thing I know. I got a weekly call with one of your guys, Nav, who is absolutely phenomenal. If Nav, if you're watching this, if not, somebody send this to Nav. He's awesome, 100%. Mike, if you could promote him, please promote him. One thing he used to basically talk about is just understanding the numbers game. I remember he told me that early on. Actually, it was initially when we hired. I love your guys' process of, hey, we're gonna give you 5 closers. I remember the first call I hopped on. It was like, one of these people in 2 weeks is just gonna disappear. Somebody's gonna suck. Then you probably have 2, maybe 3 good guys. And it literally worked out exactly like that. About a week and a half in, we were like, we're not gonna say the gentleman's name, but we were like, where's Waldo, so to speak. And he was disappeared. Got somebody who's 100% killer, and then 2 guys that are doing great, but we're still crafting to make sure that they could still be a little bit better.
Dude, it's so funny because it works exactly like that. And like, I can't tell you how it's so consistent. The statistics on it are so consistent, and we just do it enough to know exactly what it is. And that's what it is. Like, someone's going to disappear. You're going to have someone who's promising, and you're going to have a standout. And like, it's pretty much just every time we run it. If anyone who does exactly what we tell them to do on the other side, they're like, yep, it worked out exactly as you said it would. Anyone who tries to do it their own way, it's like, God, just do exactly what we tell you to do.
Not big time.
Were you surprised by who was who?
Yes. No, I remember because the first call I was on, I was like, okay, I want to try to play this in my head, see if I could predict everybody. And I was completely wrong. The person from the first call, and I have, maybe this one of the things that entrepreneurs deal with is sometimes when we get our own idea in our head, we can be too stubborn about it. I judged it initially just in my head off the first video that they sent in before we even had an interview. And I saw the first video, and the person who was 100% kind of 100% there, the most charismatic, the most assertive.
Let me guess. That's the motherfucker who disappeared on you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
I was jumped out, and I was like, I bet this is gonna have to be the best person, because he totally better video than everybody else. Disappeared. No clue where he is.
Dude. I mean, and the thing is, I really appreciate that coming from you, because you closed. Right. So you're not even a person who just thinks that you understand, oh, this is my market, this is my demographic. You're actually a closer. Like, you understand what it takes to be a closer. You had a read on the situation, and you totally misread the situation. And that's part of why the process is designed the way the process is designed. We don't know, and we tell all of our clients, like, just do what we fucking tell you to do. Yeah. Because I can't tell you how many times the person I thought was the best was the worst, or the person that disappears, the person I thought was like, I don't know about that one, we'll give them a shot, ends up being like our standout. And it's so crazy how consistently you can be surprised in this. Even though you think you can get a read on a video, even though you think you can get a read on the interview, you never know until you see someone hustle.
Yep, big time. And another thing, though, is you could tell the different kind of personality quirks. The person actually, because my closing style, so to speak, is dramatically different than the person who's our absolute killer right now. And when I initially, because the most specific thing I could say is, person I'm thinking of, his name is Matt. He's probably definitely our best closer right now. He's been killing it. He is very good at using silences, especially at the end of the call. One thing that I've always been big on is, like, I want to be able to frame the objection, handle it, then revert back with like kind of a closing question. Does that sound like a ridiculous idea? Can we welcome you to the family? Any of those things. Our guy Matt, you're just boom, answer your objection. Yeah, we could do that. We could figure that, and just sit there. And I've been watching his calls, and people just jump to just after maybe 4 or 5 seconds, or all right, let's do it. Let's go. Let's move forward. And I would have never thought, just because of like, hey, I've closed hundreds of thousands of dollars myself, all this stuff, that I would have just magically assumed, or naturally assumed, that my style of closing was going to be what I preferred the most. But it's a completely different style, and he's killing it. So I'm like, hey, keep doing you, man. I'm happy.
And then, what's crazy is, if you tried to put your style on him, he probably wouldn't close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he knows how to close in his style, And if you just make sure he has the product knowledge, has the market knowledge to be able to speak to your people, and then you let him do him, he'll close. And that's, it's weird, but like we all have different styles. My style is completely different than a lot of other people's styles. And I see their stuff and I'm like, oh my God, I can never, like, that's just terrible. How do they even do it? But they're getting deals left and right. Yeah. And the reason I don't like it is a matter of taste, not effectiveness. You know what I mean? Like I don't like the majority of country music, right? Like old country is awesome, like your Johnny Cash and stuff, but like the majority of the pop industrialized country music is like, I think that's trash. But it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the market thinks. And there's a huge group of people that are mass consumers of that, right? Yep. So it's the same thing. It's like your taste, just because you have a flavor of how to close it or how you think it should happen, doesn't matter. It matters what the market thinks. And like, you got to let the person do their thing to let the market speak.
Big time. No, I remember I had told him early on, was, hey, I want to see, I've got a different style. We're going to play this out to see how it is. If you're not closing good, we might revert more to our style. But if you're killing it, I'm just going to let you run free. And kind of what you said on the call before on the weekly coaching call was kind of hiring salespeople and letting them run free. And he's been killing it. So I'm like, as long as you keep doing a good job, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, like, you could have a team of 5 sales reps and all of them have completely different personalities and different styles. And then all of them be super effective. And then they're just effective in different ways. You have your hard closer. You have your nice, the person who's like so nice. Everyone loves them because they're just the nicest person. Then you have the person who makes everybody laugh the entire time, the whole time. They're just making jokes left and right. And then they're selling. And it's like, it's so crazy, the different schools that you can see and how much they close. But kudos to you for keeping an open mind in the first place and being willing to let that experiment run. Because I think most people say, oh, I have a track record. I'm good at this. This is why we should do it my way. And to have that open mind says a lot. So, I mean, it's cool. Now that you see it, now you'll never go wrong, because you'll just be like, okay, I know that I don't know. And so I just got to let the numbers fall.
Got to let the market decide. That's exactly. Going to praise.
Sweet, man. Well, if anyone were to want to find you, where would they be able to find you?
Find me on Instagram at, my handle is just Keithen Lewis, Keithen Lewis, Lewis. Or you could go to our website, mpmarketing.co. And then other websites we're in maintenance right now for like coaching and then helping partner people up with sales aspects. But I'll let everybody know that as soon as we get something launched and ready to go.
Cool. Sounds good, brother.
Awesome.
Thanks for jumping on with us, and I'm excited to see your continued growth. So
yeah, man, my pleasure.
That's it for this week's interview. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this interview, we do one like it every single week inside of our free Facebook group called 7-Figure Agency Owners and High Ticket Coaches. So if you're an agency owner, coach, service provider, and you're really wanting to scale to 7 figures and beyond, join us inside the group. It's coachingsales.com/group. Again, coachingsales.com/group. See you on the inside.